Um, right, so this is my medical centre, and as you can see from the model, this here is the library. So my scheme links the medical centre with the library as the community centre. So rather than an addition, it's another one in. But I'll start from the outside the building and move through, but that's just so you can kind of link it up. This is the facade of the building. It was driven by a quote, but I'll move on to that. It just explains how we've got the library building here, and then we've got the different blocks of building, which are all wrapped in this facade. And the idea of this was the repetitive nature of kind of the council houses in the area was something which it's something that's quite familiar to people, and I wanted to respond to the homely nature that the doctors wanted through familiarity of form and materiality inside. So it's kind of these familiar repetitive forms which I wanted to use, and then they've all been bound up together and brought together with this facade that wraps right around the building. Here's a site plan just showing how the building sits on the site and attaches to the library. It sits more or less dead up against the it's 3.5 metres away from the side of the road, and it goes exactly down the line where the shops that previously sat on site were. So it runs dead above there, so that the previous bit of kind of greenfield here can remain unbuilt on, and the bit which was built on before, you can use that, so there's no need to kind of go digging out the foundations too much, because I'm going above that. You can't see it too well. That's just like a projection of the building actually come around the corner. It's just a little photo montage of how that would work. And then as this opens up, this model's just a load of cross sections, so you can see right through the building as we go through. Now, it's this quote which led me onto the design of our facade. Here we can see a model of the facade I've made in here, and what it is, it's a series of black tubes with, it'd be like either string or wire, like a green wire running through them. And it was taken from this quote from Johanni Pallasmaa. Architecture domesticates limitless space and enables us to inhabit it, but it should likewise domesticate endless time and enable us to inhabit the continuum of time. And I thought about that as I was reading his book, and I thought about that in relation to this project and how the relevance of that in terms of our, as humans, as spaces within time. We are kind of, we embody knowledge within time, and that's kind of what this is meant to represent, in that the black tubes are kind of moments within time that is ever continuing. And there's a sort of metaphorical thing that was going on with the facade, and that's what that's intended to embody. That's an elevation of the building on the site, just showing how it slopes down with the site and how like the image before projected onto here, but with a bit of context behind. These blocks here show the different uses of the building. We've got the library here, which is in grey, and then above we've got the two blocks which form a bridge above here, and then we've got the other green blocks which form the medical centre. So there's a differentiation, but they link into one another by on the different levels. And in the bottom corner here we have it's just going to be a small football pitch for kids. Like when we were at the site, we bumped into some kids on the field, and we asked them what they would have in the area, and of course they were like, oh, we want a football pitch. And so I've just put a little footballing court down there. It'd be a hard surface with some.
This area.
Yeah, that's this area. So all this corresponds exactly above towards there, and that flat area would be a small footballing court. So this kind of shows the idea of the different colours and wanting to merge them, merge them through. This map shows, going kind of against what you said in a previous presentation, really, and there's actually quite a few facilities available in the area. And when we went and had a look and we explored the different things, and we spoke to the lady in the library, and that's where the idea kind of grew from to link the two. In that there are a lot of facilities which go on, but they're all quite disjointed. So rather than building another facility elsewhere to further disjoint it, I thought it made sense to bring more facilities together into one thing, create more of a kind of cultural nucleus of the area. Because at the moment they use the church hall for certain facilities, and then there's the two schools up here. Well, it's one, they call it a something learning campus, but it's just two schools. And they all come and use these facilities down here. And there's a sports centre here with a youth club, but the youth don't use it because they've got to pay for it. So they then go and hang out in the library, and they then cause problems in the library in the evening. And that's one of the problems I've solved in my design as we move through. So moving through to the first floor plan here. This is the upstairs bridge area, which is this area, and then that bit there. These rooms here, I've moved the downstairs. There's an office in the library for the community centre workers, and I've moved those upstairs into here. They've got an office which is slightly bigger than their previous office, and it's out of the way. And when we spoke to the lady down there, she said that that would actually be beneficial for them, because at the moment they get people coming in to the community centre staff and asking them questions which are relevant to the children's centre, which is in the other end of the building. So by moving them upstairs, it kind of moves them away and out of the public line, which isn't where they need to be. And they also offer facilities in there, such as like renting out interview rooms for people to come and use. And they have a nurse's suite in there already where they do mother and babies classes, so by linking this up it could help with that. And there's a small interview room here which is moved upstairs again, which was downstairs. So those two things have been relocated upstairs, and we'll move downstairs afterwards. But then moving into the shared space, which is all linked. Here we've got a large interviewing room, which its main use would be by the medical centre, and the counselling room here. Now, my thoughts with these are, the medical centre will only be using them during the day, probably only the mornings. So it's a waste of facilities to have them not used through those other times. Now, these walls can be removed to create a big open space here, which could be used for large-scale meetings or for people come maybe even spoken word events or anything like that. Moving further on, there's a cafe here, which again is used by both facilities. And we spoke to a lady about a cafe, and she was saying that their coffee machine in the library is always running out, and that it gets a lot of use, so that she assumes there would be demand. And with this space here, which would be looking out into the gardens over that side, I think it would be a quite a nice little space to stop for a coffee. Here we have the staff area for the medical centre, as in the admin and the manager are just upstairs. So we've got the admin area here. We've got the manager's office here, a staff room here with a toilet and kind of cooking facilities, and that's a toilet for the people upstairs using that. Moving down to the ground floor, if we'll start with the library. The stairs come up here. Number 11 here, moving into here, is where the office was. And what I've done, I've moved the office. I've put in it's like a teenager's lounge. So where the teenagers that come in the evenings and kind of cause a disruption, they've got somewhere where they can go, because they said they really don't like throwing them out because they've got nowhere else to go. But they can't be in there causing disruption. And by having their own space, they can be in somewhere more controlled. It could be quite a messy space, but it's a confined space, and it doesn't impinge upon other people using the library space. And the stairs come up here, and this is a nurse's suite which is linked to the children's centre, where they do mother and babies classes, and that will now obviously be a lot better supplied as it's linked to the medical centre. On the ground floor, I've put arrows, so I've failed, but you go in this is the car parking. I've just extended the car parking by another row and added another row of car parking in. So you come straight in. The pharmacy is the first thing on your left, but we'll get to that. On your right side there's bicycle parking, and this entrance here is a space here. So it's kind of slightly set back off everything, and it's like covered by the bridge, so I'm hoping that I kind of naturally lead people into there. My circulation was based largely on, we've had lectures about it at the moment, and it's something I think is quite interesting, is the Roman street planning Ricardo and Decumanus system. So I've gone with that, of kind of, there's circulation down here and circulation this way. And you come up here, you've got reception, which is kind of at the crossroads. So you'd come in and that'd meet you there. You've got reception straight ahead of you, and that's overlooking here, which is the waiting area. So you'd come on through, and then you've got these clusters of rooms around the waiting area, so that there's no corridor, so to speak. It's like an L shape overlooking the views which come out this way, which as you come through the building, those views will be straight ahead of you and naturally kind of lead you towards them, because where all the light would be coming into the waiting area. These are the GP's rooms around the edge, the nurses' suites and the treatment room. The treatment room is the only one without any windows, because I wanted to keep it more controlled. So if there's no natural light coming in, there's no variance, everything can be very, very precise in terms of the controlling of the environment within there. All the other consulting rooms and nurses' rooms have all got windows looking out. Here there's number 13 here is just, it's kind of the services area. It's where all the storage, the cleaners area and all the note storage and things like that all go in there. I've not divided it up because I don't know what would be best for them to do. But I've just allocated that space, which is more than we were initially told, so there's plenty of space in there for them to use for storage and equipment and things like that. Toilets are here, number 7, which are on the main walkway through, so it's accessible from everywhere. Number 4 here is a small staff room for the people working on the ground floor, so that they can, like, if they just want to pop off for a cup of tea, they don't have to go upstairs. There's a small staff room, and they come in this way, so it's right by the doorway. If they're running late, they can come in, drop their stuff off in here, and move on without having to go upstairs. Toilets in there for staff as well. Number 8 is a little buggy parking area, so that mums can leave their, or fathers can leave their buggies parked there. Yeah, so this shows the kind of patient circulation. You'd come in the front door, there's the toilets there, you'd move straight on and then disperse out from there into the different rooms. The staff circulation, you'd come up from downstairs where the parking's underneath, and you've got the staff room here and the different rooms which they may be working in, and then the storage room there. The views as you come through, mainly out through these gaps here and straight out ahead, out over to the hills. And this shows the pharmacy area. Now the thing with the pharmacy area is the pharmacy is going to be open at times when the medical centre isn't. So you can come in this door, like come in the main entrance area, but you go in a separate door. And this can all be blocked off from here, which allows for use of the toilets and for access to upstairs, so that this can all be used out of hours, and this can all be blocked off as a separate thing. But then when it's open during the day, it's just like it's one fluid space which all works as one, but can quite easily be blocked off, so you can use the separate facilities as individual things. The services, the boiler room's underneath, that's on the next slide, it's just under here. But it's located centrally and underneath where there is access for people to come in, straight in at this level, so they can come off the road into the parking space, and any maintenance that needs doing in there. And it's central, so it can obviously access easy to all the different places, and that is done through the floor. And the next slide for the basement shows that. So that's the room lit up in blue. It's slightly off, but so lit up in blue, and you can see like the pipes and things coming through underneath up into the different rooms round and about. And that's pretty much everything. It's just back to the elevation, obviously. We move through. This is the main circulation path. So you come in along here. You move to reception area here. This is the waiting area with the views out over in this direction, with the GP's rooms out the back, and carrying through here. This shows like the upstairs kind of bridge area, where it's like fluid movement through, with the cafe area upstairs, and the different office spaces and everything up there. But that's everything, and you can have a look through that if you want.
Well, I mean, it's certainly a novel way of presenting, very exciting way of presenting. Whether I'm sort of any wiser in terms from over simpler drawings is a question mark. Sometimes we can have very interesting methods, but what do they actually reveal? Anything new? Right. So I've parked that as a sort of a question mark. Right. So you have to be mindful of that. But I think it's a very exciting way of looking at the building three-dimensionally, right? But it doesn't sort of make immediately. I can't quite understand the building as a whole, as a massing.
Right.
And maybe that's.
Let's show you.
Just be careful. So there's going to collapse, I suppose.
When it's all put together like that, that is the building.
Right.
So it's done. It's arranged like this in the blocks, and so this is a 3D exactly how it would be.
Right. Okay.
And all to scale.
Right. Okay. So, but in terms of the road, you'd move in here. The car park.
The road's up here, yeah.
Right,
So the car parking's in here.
Again, what's this kind of. I mean, I have this thing. You sort of use the analogy of the time and the green line. I mean, again, I'm not convinced.
Right.
Right. I think there's a sort of these issues. We can talk very esoterically about certain ideas, and then we kind of we apply it, and not really translate that idea into a real kind of meaningful expression of materiality. It's almost a gestural thing. Maybe I don't know whether I've misunderstood because it looks like sort of a bit of decoration on it.
To an extent, yes. In that I didn't want to leave the building blank.
No, fair.
And with the materials which I was planning to use, they would naturally leave the building blank. And from a technological point of view, I didn't want to overcomplicate things just to add decoration. So there's another idea which I didn't mention in the thing. I don't know how practical it would be and how realistic, but the idea of the building, I wanted the building to be quite interactive and to kind of, it's got the football pitch incorporated within it, and I like the idea of the outside of it being like a climbing frame for kids to also be able to climb up it, but I thought that might be a bit dangerous.
Sounds like an add-on to me.
I kind of had the climbing idea before this, but it evolved. But yeah, that's not what the primary focus is. I'm not going to go out and say, oh, my facade's a climbing frame. It's not.
I mean, there's absolutely nothing wrong with making the blanks facades. It would have been quite enigmatic, in a way, just to have the building almost as a cross-section, right? So there was no immediate kind of quality of this normal building that we see.
Yeah.
Right? So that would have been quite enigmatic in itself, without having to kind of superimpose this decorative component on it. And also, I'm not convinced by your argument for, it might have a very valid sort of statement in itself, but how relevant it is very subjective. Right? And I think it's an interesting way of presenting. Almost, for me, it started off really fun, but kind of got a bit.
Yeah.
Same thing again.
But I mean, these are things that kind of need to be covered.
Yeah.
And I think if I'd explained them in a different manner, they would probably be even more boring in a way. Because a lot of the thought that's gone into mine is more about the planning side and making a very, very functional space.
But it's about the beauty of the spaces that we experience.
Yeah.
And that's a bit, in a way, architecture is about that. And it's not about clever, dare I say, I'm not saying you are doing a clever talk, but I think there's a slight danger in that we kind of think good architecture is clever talking architecture. And I think it's actually finding that balance between what you're aspiring, which I think is admirable, right? And presentation technique is very exciting. But it's just that balance,
Yeah, I mean, I've put a lot of work into getting this model and this all working. No, but my point is that I've not been able to, through doing that, I've not had time to kind of demonstrate how the interior spaces work as much. I mean, I've started working on it, but I didn't want to include kind of unfinished images and unfinished stuff. I just wanted to include what I've got now and what's working, because in the time we've been given for this project.
I think you've done a brilliant job as a sort of a sculptural exploration of the form and some of the ideas. But what I'm left sort of hungry for is that what I call architectural experience of spaces. And yet that's what it's about. And yet there is a suggestion there's going to be some very interesting spaces, and I think it's something maybe you just need to communicate.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I've got plans for different things I want to do.